I wanted to take a step back and kind of address the rumor mill around the NFL draft this week, because we haven't really talked about the quarterbacks or the ordering of the quarterbacks or any of that in a while, because again, we're really giving people the red meat here at the podcast. So Dane, I wanted to chat with you about some of the stuff you've either seen publicly reported or even some of the stuff that you've been hearing about this week. It really does seem like, according to all the rumblings out there, that Bryce Young is probably going to be the number one pick in the draft, or it seems like it's trending in that direction. Do you feel like we're getting to a place where it seems like Bryce Young to Carolina is probably going to be the answer here?
Closer we get, the more confident I think we become that will be the pick. And I can't tell you what the Panthers are going to do, but I can tell you what I think other teams believe the Panthers are going to do, and that's take Bryce Young. So, and obviously he's my top quarterback. He's my top player in the draft. I'm on board with that. It makes perfect sense to me. The intrigue starts at 2.
It sure does.
And that's where, credit to, Lance Zierlein. We've been talking about on Prospects and Pros for a while now. And even Robert, going back to that Combine episode we did, or the episode right out of the Combine, we mentioned how it's not not everybody was universal in their thoughts at the Combine that the Texans were going to take a quarterback at 2. And, I think from the outside looking in, it's easy to say, yeah, they need a quarterback. But we have to remember, this is a first-year head coach, a new coaching staff. I don't think they feel pressured that it's quarterback or bust. We need to find that guy here. If they're not universal in their belief, there's a quarterback at 2 if Bryce Young ends up going 1. And that's what I've been told, is that offensive staff in Houston, the coaching staff, is not 100% consensus on board. There's a quarterback worth taking at 2. Then Nick Caserio, can you really draft a quarterback there? And if that's the case, are you trading out? Are you taking the best non-quarterback on your board, whether that's Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson? So a lot of intrigue there at that number 2 pick.
Do you feel like they want to leave this draft with a quarterback if they don't get one at 2? Or is it something where they would just punt on the position in the first round overall? Because we know they're in a unique position. They have multiple first round picks next year, and they're probably going to be bad. And we've heard about what the quarterback group is going to look like next year. So do you think it's that they don't think they want to draft one at 2, or there's a world where they don't even draft a quarterback in this first round?
Both. I can see both scenario playing out because, they have that 12th pick, obviously, and they can play around with it. If they want to go up and make a trade say, they're all in on, or not all in, but say they like Anthony Richardson. They feel like at a certain point, he's worthy of, rolling that dice. If he's available, say the 7th pick, Anthony Richardson, do they move up 5 spots to go get a guy like that where it's not going to be this prohibitive cost? Maybe they do that, which, rarely do we ever see with a team has multiple early picks. They draft a quarterback with the 2nd one. It doesn't, not a great track record of that happening and actually working out. But, this is Houston's at a weird spot right now because, like you said, they do have multiple picks next year. They can wait. They're not going to be forced to go in a certain direction. It's going to be really interesting to see how they play this.
And Nate, it feels like if that does happen, if the timeline unfolds where the Texans don't take a quarterback with a 2nd overall pick, the winner seems to be the Colts, because then there's a world where there are 2 quarterbacks on the board at 4 when they pick, or there are 2 quarterbacks, one of which they might like more than the other, available at 3 and they can move up. So it just seems like the dominoes fall such a different way if the Texans choose to make that decision at number 2.
Yeah, after the Panthers moved up and things were starting to get broken down and more rumors are coming, when everyone assumed, including myself, I was like, oh yeah, Texans are taking quarterback at 2. Hopefully they just get their guy. And it looks like it's going to be Stroud and they'll get Bryce Young. And I can see why they like Bryce Young. He could sell some tickets. I know they like Bama guys like in the Texans building. So it's like, okay, a lot of those connections made sense. Wow, poor Colts. Someone's going to move up to 3 and they're going to might not get their guy. They better be calling Baltimore right now. It's just so funny in a month how things breathe and now everything's come away and how they just, Colts are just by just sitting still have kind of things have kind of calmed down around them where they might get one of those guys that maybe makes sense for them too, where they're at. I understand like if Richardson or Levis is there, I feels like they have some preference to Levis, but if one of those guys is there, that's a lot easier to swallow than moving up a pick for him. You don't have to give up any day 2 collateral, anything of that sort. And it kind of, they are the biggest winners by doing nothing. Sometimes it's nice in life when you can just do nothing and you just ascend upwards. But I think that actually breaks down pretty nicely for them where they don't have to do anything outlandish and they can still get a guy they might like, or they might be in the Texans boat where they're like, man, I think they're incentivized to take a guy. But
They got to do it.
But so what Dane said real quick is that maybe it's hard to take a guy, especially at number 2, if not everyone's on board. And at every position, especially the quarterback position in this class, there's little consensus about all the spots, especially quarterback. So if you have a lot of kind of, I won't say infighting, but disagreement in the building, is it really hard day one, new head coach? We're going to take a guy that not everyone's sold on. So I understand that argument that maybe the guy that they all kind of do prefer, but maybe not at 2, they move back, they move up from 12, yada, 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 or move to next year, punt it to next year. Kind of understand that. Let's go with Davis Mills. Let's run the Bobby Sloak. Let's run the Shanahan offense with the training wheels on, and let's just get through this year and see what we're at next year. So I understand, as I've sat and marinated on it, that argument or that discussion, and it kind of makes more sense than maybe it did a couple of weeks ago to me.
So let's say that Will Anderson goes at 2, Dane.
Okay.
And we're sitting there in Kansas City, all next to each other, doing our live draft show. Do you envision that a different logo flashes onto the screen instead of the Cardinals if that does end up happening?
I think it'd be a surprise if it didn't. I think we're all waiting to see which logo pops up. Could it be the Colts, who are just saying, you know what, we've been patient, but let's just move up one spot, make sure we get our guy. And who would that be? I don't think it's a slam dunk at CJ Stroud. I think I know they like Will Levis quite a bit. I would not be surprised at all if Will Levis is the Colts guy. Now we've seen, or I've heard the Tennessee Titans are a big player in this. The Tennessee Titans have made a lot of calls, teams picking in the top 5 to lay the groundwork for a trade. Doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. I mean, those calls are fairly common this time of year, because you're doing your due diligence. You're even if the trade's not probable, it could be possible, and you're at least making those calls to see what it's going to cost. So the Titans are in this mix. The Falcons had a late meeting this week with CJ Stroud. Could they be enticed to maybe make a move for a guy like Stroud if he gets out of the top 2 picks? So yeah, I think that's where the intrigue really starts. If the Texans do take a non-quarterback at 2, the Cardinals are going to trade out of there. It's just a matter of who's going to move up to that 3rd spot. Could it be the Colts? Could it be the Raiders? Could it be a team like the Titans moving all the way from 11? The Colts, I don't see them moving up to 2 just because of the interdivision. Like that just seems unlikely for a quarterback, right? So I don't see that happening. But yeah, I think that's where the intrigue is. We're all going to be waiting at the edge of our seats to see which logo pops up once the Cardinals are on the clock.
The Raiders are another good team to mention because I think at the start of this conversation, like Nate alluded to, my thought was, okay, they kind of stumble into this top 10 pick because they were unlucky last year. And this hodgepodge team that was pieced together in this very strange way that didn't make a lot of sense. But if you can stumble your way onto that rookie quarterback contract timeline, you can reset things a little bit for yourself. Yeah. And then as it all started to unfold, like the way the chessboard looked, it's like, oh shit, it's just going to be Jimmy G and this weird team and they're going to miss out on their guy. But now they're another team that maybe one of these guys could fall into their lap in the top 7 and things could reset a little bit for them. We're going to have a lot of time over the next week or so to revisit some of this stuff. And then obviously the 3 of us are going to be together live in Kansas City. I'm going to start saying that a lot on the show here over the next 7 days. A reminder, please check into the Athletic Football Show's YouTube page next Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. So we'll have plenty of time to discuss this, but I kind of wanted to revisit it a little bit before we let too much time go by.